Hi all! In this video we talk about the early game resources in Towers of Aghasba as to help you find all the items you need in the beginning. While the game does a pretty good job cataloging resources you found at least once, and also provides hints when you have specific quests, the sheer number of different plants, seeds, minerals and the likes can be slightly overwhelming. In this guide, we'll talk you through some of the basics and through most of the items you'll need when completing tasks on the starter island. A quick note before we begin. The developers are still actively balancing the game experience and have already announced that this also includes how many resources you can find and where. So changes are to be expected and potentially things will become a bit easier. Now let's get started with the very basics. To craft your very first tools, you simply need stones, sticks and fiber. The good news is that all of those resources can be gathered without losing Amity, the vital life force that also serves as a currency in-game. Sticks and single stones can be picked up from the ground pretty much everywhere, and fiber can be hand harvested from bushes. Alternatively, once you have crafted a stone pickaxe, you can also get stones from stone boulders. These can usually be found closer to mountains and hilly areas. Thatch is another basic resource that also drops from bushes and hay. Once you crafted your stone hatchet, you can start chopping trees, and as expected, trees are dropping wood, and occasionally also tree bark. Flint is needed for your first weapons and has a chance to drop when harvesting stone or iron boulders with your stone pickaxe. Another resource you'll need for many of the early builds as well as your starter bow is resin. In order to harvest resin, you'll have to have planted your colossal king tree seed and started your first ecosystem. You can then plant tempered seeds you can find growing around your king tree and which you also get from plants and animals in your ecosystem. While the outcome is random, these seeds can grow into trees that drop resin when harvested with a stone hatchet. You can also occasionally find resin pools growing in your ecosystem, which can be harvested with a stone shovel. If you've harvested a lot of bushes for fiber and thatch, you will have noticed that these regularly also drop common seeds. Alternatively, they can also drop when harvesting spindle root with your stone shovel, which can be found growing on the ground pretty much anywhere. When harvesting most resources, you lose Amity. In order to gain Amity again, you need to create or improve life in Aghasba. This can be by planting seeds, feeding or healing animals. If you want an extra big chunk of Amity, make sure to destroy withered nests. These give 30 and 50 Amity depending on size. Dung is an animal product and you can get it most reliably when feeding animals, as they drop it as a little thank you. Sometimes they even drop it if they get startled. Bones, raw meat and hide are kind of a no-brainer. Unfortunately, you do have to kill animals for their juicy bits, bones and skin. If you're lucky, you can occasionally also find loot containers from animals that have been killed by withered enemies in the area. Allei Leaves can be obtained by harvesting Allei fern in your ecosystem. And once you have progressed further, you can also plant common seeds that have a chance to grow into Allei roots and wild Allei. All of these will drop Allei leaves when harvested. Animals like this beetle pup can also drop them when fed. Oil is once again a resource related to your ecosystem. It can drop from Allei fern and also from resin pools which you can harvest with a stone shovel. But it's not a guaranteed drop. You can get clay when harvesting clay mounds with your stone shovel. These mounds can usually be found not far from sources of water, that be along the beach or smaller lakes, like the one in the south of Amity Island. Seashells can be collected along the beach and often they can also be found in the shallow waters there. Picking up seashells can sometimes also yield a rare shellfish drop, which is a great food source early on. If you have had trouble finding strange seeds, yes, they are rather rare. You can sometimes get them when harvesting clay mounds close by water with your stone shovel, or as well salt deposits along the beach, which require a stone pickaxe. We also happen to get them from duvers and feather snouts after feeding, but found this to happen extremely rarely. Alternatively, there is also an option to turn 3 fungi spores into strange seeds when using a pollination pod. Fungi spores drop from mushroom-like big caps that can be harvested with a stone shovel, and mushrooms that grow in your ecosystem. Another resource that can be harvested from big caps and mushrooms are mushroom caps. Elastic fins are a rare resource and most commonly dropped by skirtaus. Unfortunately, these little creatures have sometimes to contribute to a bigger purpose. Looking for where to get the precious gold dust. This precious resource is an uncommon drop when harvesting stone or iron boulders, as well as coal mounds. Stone and iron boulders, as well as coal mounds, can usually be found in mountainous areas or close to cliffs. Kelp is currently a very limited resource, at least before you have restored another ecosystem on Amity Island. One reliable spot where you can find a small number of seagrass growing, which drops kelp, is on a small rock formation at the coast in the southeast. You can easily glide or swim to this location. The good news is that the devs already announced that they will increase the availability of kelp with a future update. While technically not a resource, cob is required to finish some of the building tasks on Amity Island. In short, in order to craft this item, you need to first build a compost shed, and the process itself requires clay and thatch. Limestone, Giant's Eyegoop and Greater Fertilizer are also resources you need for a few tasks on the starter island. However, we believe these can only be acquired once you have moved to the main island, hence why we are not covering them in this guide. To frequently travel between regions, ecosystems and villages is one of the game loops in Towers of Aghasba. Everything in the world has its dependencies, and you never leave a zone behind completely, as you establish a new infrastructure between all the regions. And this sums up the most important resources you'll need when starting out on Amity Island. We hope you found it helpful, and if you do, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe and feel free to leave a comment.